Hello, my name is Brad Engen. Welcome to Trader Talks. Today I'm here with Michael Noss. How are you, Michael?
How's it going?
Um, you'd like to hear a little bit about what got you into trading, just kind of hear about your early days, what got you where you are today.
Sure. Well, I went to school for finance. I figured I'd be a financial advisor, just like the traditional path is. I never really liked the concept of just telling people to buy stuff and hold it forever and hope it went up. Uh, but, we know over the long run that will actually do better than a lot of different strategies out there. But while I was doing that, while I was learning that, I stumbled across a job fair that we had, and there was a company there called Swift Trade that was a prop trading firm. So essentially, what they would do is they would hire young people like me, right out of university or still in university, and kind of sit them down with their money and say, "Listen, we'll let you trade our money, and you basically split the profits with us, and we'll eat all the losses." So from there, I went and I worked in the hedge fund industry. I spent about 10 years there. Essentially, what we did is investors would come to us and they would want us to check out the hedge fund and say, here's my entire investment portfolio. I'm planning on investing in XYZ hedge fund. Does that make sense? What is their correlation to the market going to be? What do they do? And I would go down and actually talk to the traders and say, hey, what is it that you actually do? Because this was around the Bernie Madoff time. So nobody trusted anything when it came to accounting reports from hedge funds and large institutions and things like that. So I was able to sit there, being a trader myself, and saying, what is it that you guys do? And, what is it? How is it you make money? What kind of markets are you going to excel in? That type of thing. And funny enough, I didn't mention this, but I started using trade ideas in the prop firm.
Really?
And then, so that was 2006 when I started my first account. So did that for almost 10 years, and then that company got bought out. So from there, I said, okay, I'm going to go back to trading on my own again. Tried to pick up where I left off at the prop firm. Realized the market in that 10 years was completely different, and I had to become different as well. And that's where I really got into auto trading and quantitative stuff and longer term type stuff. And I was hanging out in a chat room at the time, and I was trying to explain a concept to someone. It just wasn't working well over text. So I just made a random video. When I was doing that, that video just kind of popped off a bit for me. It got like 5 to 10,000 views right there. And then through that, I kind of started a relationship with Trade Ideas. They approached me to be an affiliate. I started to make more videos about them because, hey, I used it anyway, and I was now going to get paid for it as an affiliate. So that kind of accidentally started the whole YouTube channel. And then I was invited to speak at a live event for Trade Ideas 3 years ago in San Diego, just talking about how I use it. I was one of the first users of the Auto Trader, and something that I still use a lot of. And yeah, just from there, they said, hey, we're growing this out. We want someone who understands the algorithm side and understands how Trade Ideas works. So that's how I started here.
So I'm guessing your use of algorithms and the auto trade function and whatnot is what led into you starting to be interested in becoming a CMT. Am I correct?
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity that I got here from Trade Ideas, where they were looking to get someone interested in that. And I don't know if it's just a symptom of the market or age, but as I go on in my trading career, I get longer and longer term time frames. Partly I think it's just reaction time and just the consequence of getting old. But the more interest I had in that, and the more interest I had in longer term trading and systematic approaches to trading, that's what got me involved in the CMT. For people who don't know, it's a chartered market technician. I always describe it as the CFA, except we're focused on the stock instead of the company. So a lot to do with systematic trading, charting, strategy development, that type of thing. And because I work a lot building our AI out and introducing new strategies to the AI, the more I understand about systematic ways to trade and logic when it comes to building trading strategies, just the better overall for the company.
So for the average layperson that comes on and, is a trader and knows a little bit about technical analytics and a little bit about charting, they're in essence not going to understand what you're saying about how you pull these different data points. Can you give us just a simple example of something you may have designed or put into the Trade Ideas app and how you did it?
Yeah, so the main way I always think about trading is like a coin flip game, right? And the logic behind that is basically if we were to sit down and just flip a coin, and I said, hey, every time it hits heads, I'm going to give you $2, and every time it hits tails, you're going to give me $1. Right? You would play that game all day long, right? Because the 50% chance you get $2, and so as long as you're sizing everything correctly and you're not going all in on one coin flip, that's a great game. And that's kind of how we look at trading it at Trade Ideas. We have the ability to back test certain scenarios. So, the first algorithm I ever built for Trade Ideas is basically just a short continuation. So the logic behind it is stock got killed yesterday and is starting to break down today. The idea simply being that there's going to be a bunch of trend followers hopping on. There's going to be people who tried to buy the dip yesterday that are going to have a stop loss. Whatever the logic behind it, but we're able to go through and say, okay, what would happen if I just did that every day, all day, and that was the only thing I did? And it turns out that back tests, especially in kind of bearish or uncertain markets, that tests great. It's got a 55-ish% win rate, but it has that coin flip mechanic of you're going to make more money than you lose over and over again. So this, we break every trading strategy into systematic, what's the basic idea? Does it make sense psychologically? And then can we just have these little edges of numbers on our side that over the long run end up paying out?
Which sounds like a better strategy than bottom picking overall.
Yeah.
It's never a good way to go. Going into your screen here, you said you had, something you built for Trade Ideas here in the past, the strength points.
So, just continuing our talk about algorithms, this is another one that we've built and one that I think is, something that's my personal favorite and actually something I learned from taking the CMT. So just to kind of tie it all together, basically what we're doing here, and this is something that Trade Ideas really shines at because it takes a lot of back-end calculation power, where we're able to rank stocks by what is the strongest in the market by using a series of indicators. So essentially what we did here is we said, what defines a strong stock? And I was able to talk to, I know you've had the trader chats with a few other, but there's a lot of people in Trade Ideas that actually trade as well. I think it's one of our kind of superpowers. And I was able to sit down with them and say, hey, what do you look like to define a strong stock? And what do you look like? And all of these things, so that I was able to combine everything that they look for and say, hey, this is strong, this is weak, and we were able to take those indicators and rank them. So you can see just here on the side that each one has a score attached to it. And it's basically just saying that this stock is stronger than this stock is stronger than this stock. And we were able to build this into an algorithm just to say, what if the only thing I did with my portfolio is just held the strongest names? And when they stopped becoming the strongest names, sold them and repeat. And it started to become really interesting. Look at the data where things would happen, basically looking at during the pandemic, right? The strongest stocks were the Zooms and the Peloton and all the pandemic names. And then after that, they became a lot of the oil and gas, and that's what we're seeing now, a lot of the utility names, wheat and all of these things. So it's a way to basically make sure you're always just in whatever the strongest name is without needing to try to interpret the news out there. I didn't even need to know that there was a pandemic going on to understand that Zoom was the strongest stock. It was just on the list. And I didn't need to know that there was inflation and war and all of this to know that what we're looking at right now, which is just a power generation company, that's doing well. And the one below it is a coal company, and that's doing well. And what this allows us to do, just like the algorithm that I talked about earlier that was a day trading algorithm, this one's a swing trading one, is to identify the trend, to ride the trend until the point that it ends. Because if we go look at Peloton, there was a point there where this was an incredibly strong name. And that ended as soon as the pandemic started to subside and people started to go back to gyms and things like that. So it went from, $20 to 150 and then back to 12. So that's one of the beautiful things we do at Trade Ideas, where we combine all of these things. We need to say, hey, we not only need to know what stock to be interested in, but we need to know when to pull the chute and get out and on to the next thing, right? Again,
Right.
contrasting that to buy and hold.
And that's not even a sector breakdown. That's just an overall market breakdown of stocks. Are you doing by the S&P, by Nasdaq, or you just talking about anything that comes through your monitor?
It's anything, and that's the real hard part when it comes to, if you were to try to do this yourself or without a platform like Trade Ideas, is it's taking, and I can't go over all of the inputs to it, but there are a few hundred when it comes to moving averages and position and range, candlestick patterns, and all these things. And it's combining all of those. And for every stock on the market, it's doing this ranking system, and it's doing it every 10 seconds. So, that's the main power there is one of the things that I just do with my own portfolio now. I have a portfolio dedicated entirely to these strength alerts or swing alerts that we call them, where I'm just going through every day and I'm saying, am I in the stuff that's on this list and the strongest name? If not, what is it that looks like it might be changing trend, and get out of that and then just get back into the strongest names. It's not as exciting as, the buy the dip people, the people who are trying to, buy a penny stock and have a double or anything like that, but nice, slow, consistent gains. So the market is down about 15 to 20% right now, and this algorithm's up 10% for the year. Just let me forget, what's tanking, and let me just rotate into what's not.
That was going to be my next question: is do you have a side-by-side analysis of strength alerts versus the market?
We back tested 2017 until about mid 2020. And then we started forward testing, which just means testing it in real time, comparison to the market. And when the market sells off, it's not always positive. No system is always positive, but the pullbacks in the system are less than the market. And when the market rallies, the rallies are more than the market. So over the long run, with the natural kind of drift up that we know that the market has over the last 250 years, you get just a little bit better every time. And then the power of compounding is, I think, what really sets it apart, where if you buy the market, you just buy it and you hold it. So you don't get that, what Warren Buffett calls the eighth wonder of the world, and it's funny, if you watch his wealth, he spent the first, 50 some odd years of his life, doing well, but not exceptionally wealthy. And then, the later part of that curve really, really expands. And basically what he's just talking about there is that, if I put $1,000 in the S&P 500 and that goes up 100%, I've made $1,000. But if I put $1,000 into a stock and I rotate that, or I compound that for that same 100% gain, I'll end up making 150 or 200%. So just the more that you can cycle your money into something else via compounding, just the better off in the long run you'll be, which is one of the reasons I think that TI Strength, or even any sort of system that is trading in a way, as long as it's doing it profitably, will always outperform a buy and hold. Because even if your drawdowns are at the same time the markets are, and your ups are the same time the market is, you have that ability just to continuously rotate your money and get that compounding effect. Yeah, so here on the screen, I have our artificial intelligence. Essentially what we do here, I talked about it earlier, where I feed it strategies. And what it's able to do with these strategies is then check all of the different filter types. So, for example, the strategy I talked about, as the stock was down one day and then it looking like it's going to be weak the next, and we're going to look for some continuation. What the AI will do every night is it takes that strategy, along with, right now we have about 70 others, and it starts to churn through and ask a bunch of what ifs, right? So, what if that down move yesterday was greater than 5% versus less than 5%? Or what if that was under the 200-day moving average versus over? And it does this about 1 million or 2 million times per strategy each night. And then the next night, it will incorporate the new data and then do the same. And then it ranks them and it says, okay, are these strategies actually profitable when they output? Because there's some strategies in some times of the market where no matter how you mess with them, they're just not going to work right now. If you're in a incredibly bullish market, you don't want to be shorting. If you're in an incredibly bearish market, you probably don't want to be buying. And then after that, the beauty of it is it will send only the strategies that work well. You can see there's only one going today called downward momentum. And then it waits because there's no way to know what, if any of these are actually going to trigger. So we sit and it waits. And in the second something meets all of that criteria that it's tested, it gives you the symbol. So like this FISV right here, it met all of the criteria right there. It recommends, hey, the AI thinks that this is an interesting looking short, stop loss, and then potential profit target on every trade. Because as we talked about, you can make money in the long run trading with that coin flip model, that 50% win rate. So that's all we're trying to do is can we weight that coin a little bit in our direction and then proper risk management on top. So right here, it tells me at the top, it says, hey, if it breaks to a new high, it's time to go. All of these numbers are set with my own risk parameters. You get to define that when you open the program. And it's a great way for people who are coming into the market and they have no idea what they're doing, right? They are interested in trading, but they just have no strategy themselves. They haven't built one. They can sit down and they can watch this AI trade and say, okay, I like when it does things like this. Maybe this particular trading style that's going on right now, this really resonates with me. Allow me to build my own version of it. And then also, because it's a robot, it has impeccable risk management. It has impeccable discipline. It doesn't take a trade until all the criteria is met. And with every trade, it's managing its risk. And those are the two things that really separate profitable traders from losing traders. So I really like this for new traders to kind of sink their teeth into and say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm doing all the right things. Let me follow a completely emotionless robot for a little bit. And then from there, kind of branch off with what you've learned on your own.
It's funny, but at the same time, you're right. And you touched on something else that I think is key with traders, especially new traders. Come in and watch. Come in and look at what the AI is doing. Find out the parameters. Find out why it's giving you these numbers. Look at the setup. Make the trade based on a decision or a formula or strategy that you come up with. And a lot of people miss that. A lot of people hear something, this is hot today, and boom, buy it.
Yeah, and there's, with the rise of Reddit and the apes and all of this, right? A lot of this stuff's got memeified where I'm just going to buy this and I'm going to hold it until I make money. And eventually that's going to burn you, right? It's only a matter of time. Eventually you're going to hold the wrong thing and that's going to burn you. So again, what I love about this, and you mentioned the importance of just watching, that's actually why we built our paper trader into the system. You can trade this with fake money and help you get that feel. And then when you're ready to go live, you just connect your live broker to the same platform and away you go. But it keeps you disciplined. It keeps you, I know that I'm gonna short this. This is something that I end up liking, and then here's where my stop's gonna go. And then over the long run, again, if you're managing risk and you've got that 50 to 51% win rate, you'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, Michael, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
Anytime.